Sixers fans, how we feeling out there? Hey y'all, my name is Lauren Gordon. Some of you may already know me on social media as Lauren Fan of the Year. Others may have just stumbled upon this podcast, but either way, I want to first thank all of you for tuning in to Season 3, Episode 1 of my very first podcast. I'm just a Sixers fan, the Lauren Fan of the Year story. Now let's continue the story. Y'all, welcome back. I cannot believe we are in Season 3. I am extremely proud of myself for staying committed to this process. The process of telling my story as a Philadelphia 76ers superfan. It started out as me having the urge to get all of these fan memories and experiences out of my head and onto paper. It was something that I wanted to pass down to my children for when I'm long gone in hopes that they would carry on this tradition. I really didn't have the intent of sharing my story with the world, but as I began reliving all of the fan memories, I realized that while there are millions of Sixers fans out there and plenty of Sixers super fans, there is no one out there with a story quite like mine. It's very unique, and it's incredible how the Philadelphia 76ers have basically been the soundtrack of my entire life. I just had to share my story. And to those of you who are following along, I am extremely grateful. So now, without further ado, let's continue the story. Y'all, the time is now late December 2021. Joel Embiid's season was already off to a great start. On December 20th, we beat the Boston Celtics, which is huge, always. Embiid had another monster game with 41 points, 10 rebounds. Seth Curry had 26 points, and Tobias had 25 points. My guy, Tyrese Maxey, did not play that night. Embiid was putting out impressive stats and was the talk around the entire league. Embiid's skill set is top tier, especially for a big man. As a basketball fan and even sports fan, Joel Embiid is fun to watch. His footwork, his agility, he's a great athlete, and we were lucky to have him on our Philadelphia 76ers. During this time, we were playing well as a team under Doc Rivers. I was optimistic for this upcoming season. There was a road game scheduled on December 26th, the day after Christmas, in D.C. against the Washington Wizards. This was also the day before my youngest daughter Kendall's birthday. I said, Ken, why don't we celebrate Christmas with the family? Then the following day, we can drive down to D.C., we could check into a nice hotel, have a nice meal, go to the game. You wake up the next morning, it's your birthday. We can have breakfast and then check out. It could be my Christmas/birthday gift to you. It'll also be a nice little road trip before the end of your winter break. And it will also be another NBA arena I can add to my list. Kendall is also a huge Sixers fan, and she loved the idea. I went ahead and booked our hotel and the game tickets. And because the game was in D.C., we didn't have to pay for any flights. It was only a 2.5-hour drive, so it worked out great. We had an exciting holiday week to look forward to. On December 23rd, We attended the last home game of 2021 against the Atlanta Hawks. We lost 98-96. Maxie was back in the lineup after being out for a left quad contusion. He had 17 points. The very next night, Christmas Eve, there was breaking news. Jamie Apodi from 6ABC Action News reported a Sixers official confirms to Action News that Tyrese Maxey's house caught fire tonight. He and his family are safe. I thought, oh my God, that is tragic. I can't even imagine. And to have it happen on Christmas Eve? After getting over the initial shock, I immediately expressed gratitude. Thank God no one was hurt or seriously injured. Most material things can be replaced. I enjoyed Christmas with my kids, my mom, my dad, my bonus mom, Nina, my sisters, and all my nieces. For me, that's what the holidays are all about. As fun as Christmas was, I was even more excited for me and Kendall's road trip to Washington, D.C. That next morning, we loaded the car and was on our way down I-95. Shout out to my oldest daughter, Kirby. I don't mention her a lot. She lives all the way in Reading, but between her and Corey, my daughter who lives across the street, they make sure Murphy, my Shih Tzu poodle fur baby, is well taken care of. I'm grateful for my family. When I'm away, everyone pitches in to help out with Murphy and to watch my house. This gives me peace of mind while living my dreams. Kendall and I were on our way to Washington, D.C. We arrived safely and checked into our hotel. We did our normal routine, drop the stuff off in the room, grab a good meal within walking distance so that we can enjoy the city, come back to the room, take a quick nap, wake up, shower, and then we get game ready. It's a whole production. We're talking Sixers while Kendall's playlist is playing in the background. We get dressed, hair, makeup, selfies. It's all part of our pregame routine. Since it was December in Washington, it was still pretty chilly out, but we didn't mind the walk to Capital One Arena. We arrived a little early and had to wait in line outside the entrance. Of course, there were plenty of Sixers fans. So in acknowledgement, we'd give the head nod, or in my case, the frantic and excited wave whenever I see a Sixers fan outside of Philly, and always a Sixers or Philly shout out. While standing in line, we were behind a couple who introduced themselves as Jimmy and Cheryl. We began chatting about our love for our Philadelphia 76ers. They too had driven down from Philly for the game, and like us enjoyed traveling to road games. We began comparing notes. They said, "Have y'all been to Atlanta?" And we were like, "Yes, we just came from Atlanta about a month or two ago." And then we'd say, "Well, have y'all been to Memphis?" And then they'd reply. So basically, we were just comparing notes like, "Have y'all been here?" or "You should go here." They had just come from Boston and said we had to put TD Garden on our list. I told them my goal was to see our Sixers play in every NBA arena. Up until that point, I had seen my Sixers play at the Spectrum, Wells Fargo Center in Philly. That also includes the First Union Center, Core States Arena, but technically it's the same building as the Wells Fargo Center, just a different name. The Spectrum, however, was a completely different venue, so I count the Spectrum as one, Wells Fargo Center, Core States Arena, First Union Center as two. So those are two arenas that I've seen our Sixers play in Philly. I've seen them play the Orlando Magic, which is 3, the Dallas Mavericks, which is 4, Brooklyn Nets, which is 5, New Orleans Pelicans, which is 6, Atlanta Hawks, which is 7, and now the Washington Wizards, was my 8th arena, and I was most excited to get to the Garden arenas, whether it was TD Garden in Boston or Madison Square Garden in New York. Both of them were on my list. Kendall and I enjoyed sharing and comparing notes with Jimmy and Cheryl. It turns out that they were also both longtime Sixers season ticket holders. And fast forward to this day, y'all, I'm still connected with Jimmy and Cheryl. We always bump into each other at the home games, and we have each other's phone numbers, so we'll text from time to time. And y'all, I have to say that I have met the most amazing people just being a Sixers fan. Finally, the doors open. Kendall and I go through security, we have our tickets scanned, and then we walk around the Capital One Arena. I told y'all, it's fun to just take in being at a different arena, in a different city. The Washington Wizards entertainment squad handed us a bobblehead. I believe it was of Kyle Kuzma, if memory serves me correctly. And y'all, this was perfect because I always like something to commemorate my road trips. Kendall and I got to our lower level seats right next to the visiting team tunnel. Y'all, it had been over a year since the pandemic shut down, but we were still required to wear our masks during the game to slow down the spread of the COVID-19 virus. And what I remember about the game was Embiid had gotten into it with Montrezl Harrell from the Wizards, and they were both assessed technical fouls, and Embiid made his 2 free throws. Then they got into it again, and Trez pushed Embiid, but this time, Trez was ejected. And I remember Embiid sarcastically waving goodbye to him as he left the court. Spencer Dinwiddie led the Washington Wizards with 17 points. Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Davis Bertans each had double-digit scoring. But y'all, it was no match for our Philadelphia 76ers. We got the win on the road, 117-96. Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Furkan Korkmaz, Tyrese Maxey, and Seth Curry each had double-digit scoring. But y'all, here is the blockbuster. During this game, Joel Embiid scored his 7,000th point. At the time, he and Allen Iverson were the only 2 players to score 7,000 points in their first 300 games for Philadelphia. Y'all, Embiid was spectacular that game. He ended up with 36 points, 13 rebounds in 31 minutes. Jeez! Joel Embiid had just hit another milestone in his career after having an incredible game, and Kendall and I was there to witness it. It was awesome. At the end of the game, Embiid walked off the court towards the tunnel where we were sitting. Fans who were seated at the top of our section began running down the stairs to get a closer look and photos of our franchise superstar. And y'all, I'm not talking about just Sixers fans. There were a lot of Washington Wizards fans who wanted to get a close look at Joel Embiid. And to their credit, the ushers did a great job keeping the growing crowd under control. Kendall moved up 2 rows so that she was like right at the path that led to the visitors' tunnel. Embiid must have felt really good about his performance because, y'all, he stopped and was signing autographs and was taking photos as he walked closer to the entrance of the tunnel. So I stayed in my seat and I just began filming. And everyone, Sixers fans, Wizards fans alike, were chanting, Embiid, Embiid, Embiid. And of course, there were also MVP, MVP, MVP chants that were echoing in the background. As Embiid approached the tunnel, he stopped to talk to the fans who were to his right. We were kind of like to his left. Then I saw him turn and walk towards us. With my cell phone video still recording, I saw Kendall bend over and hop on one foot as Embiid walked towards her. Because we were elevated on a riser, he stood face to face with Kendall. She quickly turned around in complete amazement. She was holding up one of her red, white, and black Nike Jordans in her hands. And I screamed through my mask, "Oh my God, Kendall, did he sign it?" She flipped her shoe around and, y'all, in her own excitement, said yes. She was almost in tears as she walked towards me. And I yelled, "Happy birthday, Kendall." What a birthday gift. A lot of the fans who were in close proximity to us also wished Kendall happy birthday. Even though our hotel was near the Capital One Arena, y'all, we still had to walk back after the game. And I noticed that Kendall was walking tiptoed all the way back to the hotel because she didn't want to mess up her freshly signed Joel Embiid Jordans. We were on such an adrenaline high. We literally celebrated her birthday eve. And we also celebrated our fun mother and daughter bonding road trip. And we were able to add another arena to our list. We got to celebrate Joel's monster game, the win, and Kendall's memorable keepsake of Joel Embiid's autograph on her Nike Jordans the night that he scored his 7,000th point. It was awesome, and it was an incredible night, one that we would never forget. Once we returned home, we put the autographed sneaker in a protective box. It is now displayed in the Sixers room, and Kendall had to go out and buy herself a new pair of Jordans. Y'all, what a memorable trip. I was grateful for it all. The next day, while driving around Philly, I began noticing billboards everywhere of Joel Embiid's face with the caption, MVP'd. So it was a take on Embiid, EMBIID. Well, it said MVPIID. Joel Embiid was on pace to be the league's MVP, and everyone was beginning to take notice. While we were playing well as a team, y'all, we were still losing to teams without their best players. And I believe around this time, we had lost to the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler, and we had lost to the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young, and we had lost to the Brooklyn Nets without James Harden. Well, y'all, on December 28th, Joel Embiid had 36 points, 11 rebounds to lead us to a win against the Toronto Raptors on the road, 114-109. And during the post-game interview, Sixers beat writer and Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Keith Pompey asked Coach Doc Rivers about us playing down to undermanned teams. And y'all, Doc Rivers snapped. Y'all, he went in. And I remember watching the exchange go down in real time, and I thought, geez, Keith asked a soft question, and instead of giving a simple answer, I felt like Doc took it too far. I don't know. Maybe Doc felt like, we had just won the game, and here we are talking about when we lose. Like, I get it, but I felt like Doc Rivers let his emotions get the best of him. Like, all he had to do was respond with, "Keith, we won the game. That's all that matters." Like, that could have just been the end of it. And I remember it was just a weird night because also during that post game, Embiid and Maxey was sitting at the press conference table, and Embiid was looking over the stat sheet from the end of the game, and he was clowning Tyrese for only having 5 points in the game. In fact, I believe Embiid said that Tyrese Maxey's game was trash, and then Embiid followed up with, "You were terrible." Like, I get the fact that Maxey only had 5 points that night for the game, right? But y'all, keep in mind, the man's house just burned down on Christmas Eve. Like, can we show him a little grace? Like, I was shocked that Embiid actually said that. And I know in his mind he was joking, but I don't know. Tyrese was a good sport because I remember him laughing it off. And he was even laughing at himself and said, I know, I airballed twice. And then together, him and Embiid kind of like chuckled. And I can honestly say, as a fan, y'all, the exchange at first was a little cringy because I don't like public humiliation, especially with your teammate. This immediately took me back to Ben Simmons as a possible reason as to why he wanted to leave, because no one likes to be publicly humiliated after a game. And when you think about Ben's last game against the Atlanta Hawks, when the reporter asked Coach Doc Rivers if he saw Ben Simmons as an all-star, and then Doc answered with, I don't know, shaking his head as if he didn't believe in Ben. Like, I know these are grown men and these are athletes, but no one wants to play on a team or play for a coach who doesn't believe in them. So I thought to myself, man, I'm so glad Maxey can take Embiid's public dig and still laugh at himself. Like, he legit said that he was trash. Okay, maybe not necessarily that he was trash, but his game was trash. Y'all think about that. Tyrese Maxey was still young, and Embiid was the franchise player at the time, especially with, Ben Simmons not being in the picture. And for Embiid to get at a press conference table and look at Maxey and say that he was trash, his game was trash, like, that just didn't sit right with me, because the last thing I wanted was for this exchange to make young Tyrese Maxey feel some kind of way, and it breaks his confidence. All in all, I thought Maxey handled it well at the press table. And I thought to myself, man, I really love this kid. I could already see the maturity, confidence, and self-awareness in a young Tyrese Maxey that honestly, y'all, I didn't necessarily see in Ben Simmons. Y'all, the next night on December 30th, we played the Brooklyn Nets on the road. Even with Kevin Durant's 33 points and James Harden's 33-point triple-double with 14 rebounds and 10 assists, y'all, we still got the win, 110-102. Joel Embiid, to his credit, had another monster game with 34 points, 7 rebounds, and 32 minutes. But y'all, my man, Tyrese Maxey, took that criticism from Joel Embiid the night before at that press table publicly, and y'all, he channeled it as motivation, because Tyrese Maxey ended that game with 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Yes, Joel Embiid was my MVP, but y'all, Tyrese Maxey was my rising star and my favorite Sixer. That was such a statement game against the Brooklyn Nets on the road. And y'all, like I said, this was when they had Kevin Durant and James Harden, who each had 33 points that night. And y'all, the fact that we got that win on the road, listen, clap your hands, everybody. Now that is how you close out 2021 on a high note. What an incredible year. Thank you, 2021. Looking forward to 2022. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And be sure to tune in next time as we continue the story.